stand by and let us finish this raker.
First responders from across the state are working hard. From two-legged rescuers putting equipment together to save lives, to four-legged crews searching for people under the rubble.
We have a victim here.
It's training to make sure responders with Louisiana's Urban Search and Rescue Team are ready when disasters happen.
We're mostly just trying to learn how the system works and see if we can identify any problems and work out the kinks now.
Captain Charles Hollinger is with the 3rd District Volunteer Fire Department in Jefferson Parish, and his mission at this year's training is responding to an explosion at a chemical plant.
God forbid we do have to go anywhere. We've had the training, we understand how the situation plays out.
An urban search and rescue team needs to deploy at a moment's notice.
Which is why firefighters and first responders are training.
Tremendous amount of goodwill, a tremendous amount of passion, and really a spirit of we're here to protect our citizens. So there's been no stops. The reality, people are alive today because of what this task force has done over the last 12 years.
Coordinators for this training exercise say it's important to make sure everyone knows their role and how to handle the situation, especially when lives are on the line.
Rescues in a hazardous chemical environment, concrete breaching. First, we have to find them. We use canines and cameras to find our victims.
Canines are extremely important because they provide a service that us as humans cannot do.
Which is why everyone is working together and training to save lives.
So somebody can come out here and learn a position, and then they have to step up into it for deployment. That works pretty good.
Duke Carter, Eyewitness News.